Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining our Home Buying with HBCU presentation this afternoon. My name is Migdalia Gomez. I'm the Community Engagement Manager at the Harvard University Employees Credit Union, and I'm joined by two of my colleagues, Daisy Familia, who will be today's presenter, and Dominique Verdu, who may be on the chat as well. And I wanted just to get us started. I know we'll have more folks that will join, but this is a very busy topic, so we're going to get started. On the next slide, Daisy, if you don't mind going on, perfect. On the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about how today's presentation will go. Most of you are probably very familiar at this point in this pandemic era that we are living, just being on webinars. So we have gone ahead and muted folks so that you are able to enjoy your lunch, or if you are listening to us at the gym, at work, wherever you may be, sometimes in the car. We've had members join multiple different locations. You don't have to worry about background noise. We have muted you, so we won't hear that. However, we do want you to be able to interact with us throughout today's presentation. This presentation is for you. We are here to answer questions that you may have, anything that's related to the home buying process. We want to make sure that you leave here empowered with the answers that you need. For that reason, we're going to be using the chat feature. Depending on how you logged in, if you wouldn't mind in the chat letting me know where are you joining us from today. So using the chat, if you wouldn't mind letting me know where are you joining us from today. And another question, and I'm just putting this in the chat as well so that you have it. But another piece is, when are you looking to buy? So when are you looking to buy, and where are you joining us from today? You should be able to submit questions via the chat panel or the questions, depending on how you logged in. It will be either on the top of your screen or to the left-hand side. And just like you're letting me know where you're joining us from, where you're joining from today, and when you're looking to buy, this will help us make sure that we can see your questions through today's presentation, make sure that you can hear us as well. So again, if you wouldn't mind just using the chat or questions panel to let us know where are you joining us from today, and when are you looking to buy. Okay, so I see some folks are joining from Boston. See someone that's looking to buy in 3 years. Okay, thank you, wonderful. So just like you let us know when you're looking to buy. Okay, I see someone said they're in Boston a few years. Perfect, thank you. So just continue to use that questions panel through today's presentation. Depending on the question, I may hold off on them until we get to that slide, or I may ask Daisy at the end. So just know that any question that you submit, I see someone that's joining from Malden, we will be able to get to all of those questions today. Also know that we will send a recording, so you have today's presentation. That recording will be emailed to everyone that registered, and you'll also have the slides as well if there's something that you want to refer to in the future. And we will have a very quick survey at the end. Now, that we talked a little bit about the logistics and how today's presentation will go, I want to tell you very quickly who we are at the credit union. I know sometimes our name can be tricky. It's like, we are the Harvard University Employees Credit Union. How does that relate to BIDMC? Well, as employees of BIDMC, you are all eligible to become members of the credit union because of the Harvard affiliation. And really, a credit union, the biggest difference between us and a bank is that we're a not-for-profit. So we're able to give back our profit in the form of lots of personal finance education, lower rates on loan products, higher rates on savings, and we actually even have a great checking account that has interest rate option. So that is the biggest difference, is that as a not-for-profit, we are really here to serve our community. And anyone that is employees of BIDMC and your family are all eligible to become members. And once you're a member for life. And when I do say become a member, that really just means open an account. You can open any type of account: credit card, checking, savings, mortgage, etc. That is all that I will currently say about HBCU, but if you do have any questions, you're more than welcome to submit them in the chat. I'm now going to turn it over to Daisy Familia, who is our home mortgage loan, one of our senior home mortgage loan originators at the Harvard University Employees Credit Union. Daisy is a home financing expert with decades of experience, and she's going to walk us through the entire process today. So Daisy, I will turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Migdalia, and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for taking time out of your day to come and learn about buying a property. As Migdalia mentioned, this is your presentation, so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. We're happy to answer them. And also, you can also, like after the presentation, if you want to make an appointment, we could set up a time to talk and discuss your particular situation and what options might be available to you. So today we're going to go over the home buying journey. We'll basically give you an overview of the home buying process, give you a brief overview about mortgage qualifications, and basically we'll let you know what next steps to take in order to become a homeowner. A few of the reasons why people come to the credit union is because first and foremost, we're looking to have a relationship with you. We want to make sure that we're there to help you thrive, and basically, we also understand that becoming a homeowner is a great step to building generational wealth for you and your family. We have a personalized service. We have a ton of mortgage products that we offer. Our rates are very competitive. The process could be digital. We have people that like our underwriters and processors and our originators are in-house. They're employed by Harvard. We have the option to also portfolio the loans, and I'll go over what that means later on. And based on your relationship with a credit union, there may be products that are available specifically to you as a member of the credit union. As of right now, the market condition is still very, very competitive. It's more of a seller's market. The main reason for that is because there's still not a lot of inventory in the market as far as properties are concerned. And the rates are increasing a little bit, but also what could help is that people's income is also increasing, depending on what the field that you're in. One of the first questions I typically get asked when I meet with somebody for the first time and they're thinking of buying a property, whether it be in 6 months to a couple of years, is where should I start? A good place to start would be your credit. You want to make sure that you don't have anything showing on your credit that could affect your ability to qualify for a mortgage. Basically, to buy a house, your credit standing will be key. At the credit union, your credit rating does not affect your mortgage rate, but in some of the lenders it could, but it does affect whether or not you qualify for a mortgage, as well as depending on how much you put in for a down payment, it could affect what you will pay per month for private mortgage insurance. And typically, so a credit score is basically a three-digit number, and there's many different types of like credit scores. There's FICO, there is Advantage, there's multiple types of credit scores. So if you were to look for your credit rating, let's say Credit Karma, or at a bank statement that you get from one of your credit companies, whether it'll be the credit union or another lender, basically if you look at the name of the credit or the type of credit, that may not be the same credit rating that a lender may look at when they're looking to see how much you may qualify for a loan, or when they're looking to use that credit score for qualifying purposes on a mortgage, as well as how much you will pay for private mortgage insurance. The credit union will also, and any lender will also look for your down payment. So how much you put for a down payment could reduce your monthly payment on the mortgage, as well as could reduce also whether or not you like, could take away whether or not you pay for private mortgage insurance. And I'm going to go over what private mortgage insurance is later on in the presentation. So throughout the application process, the lender, whether it's a credit union or another bank, will be looking to see that you have enough assets or liquid funds to close on your mortgage. And that's basically what assets are. So aside from having money to pay for your down payment, you need to also have money left aside for reserves in case of any emergencies. And you also need to plan ahead and make sure that you have sufficient funds for any project that you may want to have done in the property, as well as for moving expenses on the property. When a lender is looking to see how much you qualify for, like the loan amount itself, they look at your income. And based on your income, as well as based on the expenses that you may have shown on your credit and the estimated expenses for the property, that's how they determine the loan amount that you may qualify for. Basically, the formula that lenders use, including the credit union, is debt to income ratio. And what the debt to income ratio is, all of your debts, so credit cards, student loans, consumer loans, any debt that has a minimum payment that is shown on your credit, plus any debt that you are obligated to pay mandated by court, whether it be child support, separate maintenance, plus any estimated expenses for the property that you may purchase, the loan amount, so principal and interest, PMI if you put in less than 20% down payment, as well as any other expenses that you may have that we're obligated to basically take into account when we're calculating your debt to income ratio. So it'll be property taxes, homeowners insurance. If you're buying a condominium, it will be the condo fee. So all of those expenses per month will be divided by your income before taxes and deductions. And that gives us a number. Essentially, that number cannot exceed 43%. So out of your total monthly income, any qualifying monthly income, we cannot basically obligate you for more than 43% of that amount. And that's how we know how much you may qualify for. Also, the interest rate on the loan could affect the loan amount that you may be able to obtain from a lender. And at the credit union, we're able to use many different types of like sources of income. So you may be able to use Social Security income, W-2 income if you're employed by an employer that pays you W-2, 1099 income, as well as if you're receiving income from stocks, dividends, and so on. The way, how much of an income we're able to use depends on the source of the income. So for instance, if your income is derived from self-employment, we will need to see that you have received or have been self-employed for at least 2 years. And the way we will be able to see that is by looking at your federal tax returns to see, and we'll take the average net income after any deductions. If you are a W-2 employee, we would take the income that appears listed on your tax returns, but also the income that appears on your payroll stub. If you receive bonus income, we would need to see that the average of that income for the last 2 years. So the way we would do that is by looking at the last 2 most recent pay stub for the year, the 2 years prior, showing the year-to-date income and confirming that you have received the bonus income. There are many different types of products that you may be able to take advantage of in order to buy a property. And whether or not you take advantage of a different product depends on what your goals are. For instance, you may be able to go with a fixed rate mortgage. And basically, the fixed rate mortgage, there are different terms. It could be 30 years, 20 years, 10 years, and so on. What that means is that the rate is the same, so your principal and interest will not change for the life of the loan. However, the taxes, insurance, how long you have PMI for, and the condo fee could change. So your monthly payment could potentially change, but your loan amount is not going to change. The other option you may have would be to go with an adjustable rate mortgage. And basically, an adjustable rate mortgage would be more so for somebody that knows that either their income is going to increase or that they're going to not be in the property after a certain time period. And typically, you want to choose the right term based on your particular goal, whether or not right now you can be a fellow and maybe in a year or two, you're going to get a higher income and you're going to graduate from your fellowship. So you may buy a condo, like a one bedroom condo right now, but maybe later on you want to sell the condo and buy a single family property. In that case, if you know that you're not going to be in basically in that property for more than 3 years, then you may want to choose an adjustable rate mortgage. And there are different terms. So the terms start from 5-1, 7-1, 10-1, and 15-1. The repayment period is based on 30 years. So your payment may be lower than if you were to choose, let's say, a 15-year fixed rate mortgage. It's because the 15-year fixed, the repayment is based on 15 years. So if you choose an ARM, let's say that you go with a 5-1 ARM. The 5 in the 5-1 ARM means that that rate that you're going to get is fixed for 5 years. After 5 years, your rate could change. It could increase or decrease depending on the market. There is a cap. The rate cannot increase nor decrease by more than, for instance, the credit union will be 2%. Some lenders use LIBOR, so the rate could be depending on what the market is at that time for the LIBOR rate. Another option you may have as far as loan products is you may want to choose a loan that is backed by the government, depending on your situation. For instance, there are FHA loans, and an FHA loan is basically a loan backed by the Federal Housing Administration. And an FHA loan will be more so for somebody that has a lower credit rating and a lower down payment. You may be able to, with an FHA loan, depending on your credit rating and your debt to income ratio, you may be able to put as low as 3.5 down payment. Whereas if you're buying, depending on the type of loan that you, like if you are obtaining a conventional loan, which is what the credit union offers, your down payment may be, depending on whether or not you're a first-time home buyer, your down payment requirement may be as low as 5%. If you're a first-time home buyer, basically your income doesn't matter. As a first-time home buyer, you may be able to put as low as 3% down payment with a conventional product. Another option you may choose is, if you're a veteran, is to go with a VA loan. In a VA loan, you may be able to put as low as 0% down payment, and that's another loan that is also backed by the government. So at least one of the applicants for a VA loan will have to be a veteran, either active in the military or basically that somebody that retired from the military is also eligible to qualify for a VA loan. The other option will be going with a conforming loan. And a conforming loan is also a conventional loan product. And basically what conforming means is that the loan conforms to either one of the investors, either Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. For a conforming loan, there are set loan limits depending on the type of property that you're buying. For instance, if you're buying a one-family property and you're obtaining a conforming loan that is backed by, let's say, Fannie Mae, your loan amount cannot exceed, for a one-family property that includes single family or condominium, your loan amount cannot exceed $770,400. The limit will go up depending on the type of property that you buy, whether you buy a 2-unit property, like a duplex. So a duplex would be that you own one unit and live there, and then the other unit is rented to somebody else. And in that case, the conforming limit will go up a little higher depending on what it is at that time. So if you, let's say that you were buying a duplex, the conforming limit will be a loan amount not higher than $986,400. Any loan amount over the conforming limit for the type of property that you're buying is a jumbo loan. And typically jumbo loans have a little bit more of stricter rules. You may have to have a larger down payment than if the product were to be a conforming loan, and you may have to have higher requirements for reserves, and the credit rating may be like the requirement, the minimum credit rating allowed may be higher. Typically at the credit union, the credit rating, and when I say credit rating, I mean your credit score, the credit score that will be used, cannot be lower than 620 points. And when we're looking at somebody's credit rating, if you're applying with somebody else, we will look at both credit ratings, and typically the score that is used is the lower of the two applicants' credit score. Because it's a mortgage product, we are required to obtain your credit profile with the 3 major credit bureaus: Experience, Equifax, and TransUnion. And typically with averages 3 scores, and we get a FICO score, and that's the score that we will use to see how much you may qualify for a mortgage with a credit union. And that's pretty standard in the industry. A lot of lenders will look at your credit rating to see whether or not how much you may qualify for, as well as how much you may be required to put as a down payment, and also to see what your interest rate will be on a particular loan product.
Hi, Daisy. Just want to let you know we've had a couple of questions that have come up, but I know we still have about 30 or more minutes in the presentation. So I know Daisy has a good amount of content that she's going to get through, and then I will pause and ask additional questions at that point. But please keep submitting the questions. We are seeing them, and I will share those with Daisy shortly.
Awesome. Thank you, Migdalia. So credit is very important when it comes to qualifying for a mortgage, but also credit is important, but not as important as also having sufficient funds for assets and down payment. So it's basically a combination of 3 things. When we're looking to see how much, whether or not somebody qualifies for a mortgage, we're going to look at the whole picture. And the whole picture will be your income, the source of your income, how long you've been employed, as well as we're going to look to see your down payment, and also your credit rating. So it's not so much like, if let's say that you have a credit rating of 620, you've been working hard at building your credit up and so on, that shouldn't deter you. You shouldn't have to wait to build a credit score of, let's say, 800 points, because there may be other compensating factors that we will be able to look at in order so you are able to qualify for a mortgage. So I'm going to basically give a little bit of an overview when it comes to private mortgage insurance. The main purpose of private mortgage insurance is to protect the lender in case you were to default on your obligation with the lender when you're buying a property. The way private mortgage insurance is calculated is by looking at the property type to see how much of a risk the property might be. For instance, if you're buying a single family property where you are the only person that is responsible for making the payments and making sure that everything is okay, your rate may be a little lower than if you were to buy, let's say, a condominium where there's more people involved. Like you only own one piece of that whole property. Or if you were to go with a multifamily property where you might be dependent on the rental income in order to pay for your mortgage. Another aspect that affects how much you may pay for private mortgage insurance is also your credit rating. The lower the credit rating, the higher the perceived risk for the private mortgage insurance company, and the higher the premium that you may pay. So you may be somebody that, let's say that you're putting 10% down payment, but your credit rating is 625. Your premium may be a little higher than somebody that was putting 5% down payment, but their credit rating was 720 or let's say 760 because of the risk. So another basically aspect that could affect your how much you may pay for private mortgage insurance is your debt to income ratio. So if you are somebody that has a debt to income ratio, once we calculate and confirm what the expenses are, what your income is, and what minimum payments you have due shown on your credit or any other obligations mandated by court, if your debt to income ratio is 43%, your monthly PMI premium, because it's perceived that you may be a little bit close to being overextended, maybe a little higher than somebody that has a debt to income ratio of, let's say, 40% or 35%, but has maybe a credit rating of 720 versus your credit rating in the 800s. So there's many different aspects that could potentially affect how much you may have to pay for private mortgage insurance. And essentially, the higher the private mortgage insurance premium is per month, in your case, the lower the amount that you may be able to qualify for, because that's also taken into account into the debt to income ratio criteria. So aside from, let's say that the PMI, typically at the credit union, anybody that's putting less than 20% down payment needs to have PMI. We may also have another option, depending on your credit rating, of offering what is called an 80-10-10 mortgage. And what an 80-10-10 mortgage is basically you're putting 10% down payment of whatever the purchase price is. You're going to put 10% of your own funds as a down payment. 10% will be a second mortgage, and then 80% will be a first mortgage. Sometimes going with an 80-10-10 may be cheaper than going with PMI. Sometimes the other way around. Having PMI could be lower, especially if you're a first-time home buyer and because we're a credit union and our nonprofit status. We could run that once you get to that point, if you're thinking of going with either PMI or 80-10-10, we could calculate to see which one will be a better option in your situation.
Thanks, Daisy. I just want to do a quick time check. I know you have a good amount of next slides after this one, but we have about 30 minutes for the rest, and we will get to questions as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Migdalia. And again, we're available, and I'm going to, at the end, we'll give you an overview of all of my fellow colleagues that are also senior mortgage loan originators, and we could set up a time with you just to discuss your specific situation. As I mentioned at the beginning, we're looking, whether or not you go with a credit union, we're looking to build a relationship with you, and we're looking to be basically a trusted resource for you in order to help you in your home ownership goal. So a program that the credit union offers and basically sponsors for our members or anybody that's eligible for membership will be GreenPath. If you go to hbcu.org/GreenPath, you may be able to make an appointment with one of the counselors in order to see what your budget may look like. And they have many different options available for you. They may be able to help you with financial counseling, look over you if you have student loans, and look at any situation that you may have with your credit in order to help you to basically set you up so that you can thrive and so that you can have more options available for you as far as whether it be to qualify for a mortgage or if you wanted any other goals that you may have. So this is a great resource. And again, if you contact them and mention that you are a member of the credit union, even if you're eligible for membership, they'll be able to help you. When let's say that you have been qualified for a mortgage, if you've gone through the steps, and I'm going to go over the steps for qualifying a little later down the line. When you're looking to identify a property, location is very important. I mean, right now, with everything the way it's going with COVID, a lot of people have the option of working from home. So you may be able to move a little further out than you would have maybe a couple before 2019, like, and so on. But you may also, like, you may want to consider the location. If you have small children or are planning to have children, you may want it like in the near future. You may want to look at the school system just to make sure that the school system have a good rating, because that way you may not have to, if the school systems have a good rating, you may not have to pay for private school and you can save money that way. Typically, when you're looking at a property and if the property's school rating is on the higher side, the taxes may be a little higher than if you went to basically a neighborhood that is not like that has a lower credit, like a lower rating for the school. Um, you may also want to look at if you have to, let's say you have to come into work, you may want to look at how close the property will be from public transportation in case you may not want to drive and have to pay for parking and so on, or parking may not be an option depending on where you work. You may also want to look at the type of property that you want to buy. Do you want a condominium? Do you want a single family? Do you want a multifamily? Depending on the type of property that you want to buy, there may be different requirements and there may be different risks associated with that type of property, but there also may be different advantages. You may be able to find a condominium that is cheaper than a single family, for instance, if you're looking to buy in the city, versus if you wanted to go further out, you buying a single family may be a better option for you. Or if you, let's say that you're buying a property with somebody else, you may want to buy, whether it be a family member, you may want to buy a multifamily, or if you're looking to have somebody help you with your mortgage, you can buy also a multifamily where you own and live in one of the units and then rent the other one to help you offset your mortgage. You may also want to look at what features you want. Do you want 2 bathrooms? Do you need to have 3 bedrooms? And so on. So when you're looking at properties, you may want to have a checklist of what you absolutely must have in that property and what you desire to have. The needs basically is something that you are not willing to compromise on, whether it be location, whether it be the number of amenities, the type, how many bedrooms, bathrooms, and so on. But the desires, whether it be you want granite or um, granite countertops, or that you want basically a newer home versus a home that you may have to have some work done and so on. Could be basically once you start looking, depending on the market, you may, if it's something that is a desire versus a need, you may be able to compromise a little bit if you want to get into the property, but you want to basically have a clear goal of where you want to buy, the type of property that you want to buy, and what it is that you absolutely must have, so that when you are ready to go and take the next step, you are better prepared and you basically have a more specific action plan, because that could help you depending on the market. Especially now where it's more of a seller's market because there's not that many properties available. That could basically help you get the property that you want, potentially for the price that you want, in the neighborhood that you want. And it could also help with your agent. And I'm going to talk about real estate agents down the line as well. Let's say that you have found a property, and let's say, and you are ready to go to the next step. Or even if you have not found a property, you may want to do your homework way before you start even looking for properties, just so that you can have the right team. Because depending on the market, the right team could make or break your deal. When you are assembling a team, you want it basically, if you know what you want, if you've done your homework, you can, it'll be easier for you to decide on, let's say, a lender. Let's say that you are looking for a lender that has the product that you want, whether that be an FHA loan, a VA loan, a lower down payment, or whether it's a lender that could give you the best benefits and perks for your particular situation. Aside from looking at the products, like the options for products that may be available, you want to also look to see that the person that's going to help you, that's going to help guide you through the process, is available for you as well. So you want to make sure that it's somebody that could have the patience, that doesn't have, that is not trying to rush you to make a sale, but rather could help guide you through the process. And that's especially important when you are a first-time home buyer, because there's a lot of unknowns. And there's, when you are a first-time home buyer, because you may not know as much, you may be vulnerable to some lenders having to have deceiving practices to take advantage of you. So do your basically do your homework and do your own due diligence and make sure that it's somebody that is not there just because they want to sell you something, but is there to try and help you so that you can be better equipped to buy the property. And also you may want to look at the services that may be available. The next step in having the right agent could make or break your deal. Especially, it all depends also on where you are looking to buy a property, because timing is key. If when you're looking to obtain a buyer's agent, you want to make sure that it's somebody that is going to be available for you and that they're very responsive. Also, you want to make sure that it's somebody that is based in the community where you want to buy a property. And the reason why that is important is because typically when somebody is looking to sell a property, they have open houses. They may have an open house just for the agents in that community. And if your agent knows what you want or absolutely need in a property, they may be able to, once they go to that open house, they may be able to identify it, and they may be able to get you in the property before the property goes in the market. And that could be a strategy you may be able to utilize in order to get either the offer accepted or the best possible deal. You also want to make sure that the agent is a designated buyer's agent. And there's different types of agency. One will be a seller's agent. The seller's agent is basically somebody that represents the interest of the seller. The buyer's agent is somebody that will represent your interest as a buyer. And then if the seller's agent, and if you're okay with that, I don't really recommend it, but it will be up to you. If you're okay with having the seller's agent be your agent as well, then you may want to have somebody like an office manager or somebody that is part of that brokerage also oversee the transaction just to make sure that everything is like the agent is doing everything that he should be doing to represent also your interests. You also want to go with an agent that is experienced. However, make sure, so experience matters, but you don't want to be going to somebody that's basically has too much, they may be in the industry for 20 years, 30 years. That person may be not as available to you as somebody that maybe has 5 years or 2 years in the industry, somebody that's hungrier for your business, that may be able to have more time to help you and walk you through the process and maybe more responsive. Before you sign a contract with any agent, just make sure that it's somebody that jives with your personality and somebody that meets your needs and is somebody that is going to be there for you throughout the application process. And the reason why I say this is because a lot of times you may go with an agent, whether it be somebody that was recommended, and you may go with that agent. Once you sign the contract, they may disappear. And basically what that means is that you are on your own. But because you sign a contract with an agent, you are now obligated to use them for the transaction. And typically agents get paid, both the buyer's agent and the seller's agent, they get paid based on what they're able to sell you the property for. And the seller is the one that pays both your agent and their agent. Which brings me to a good point. When you are pre-approved, you may not want to share the amount that you qualify for, even to your agent. You may rather want to tell them how much you're looking to buy a property. For instance, let's say that you get pre-approved with a credit union. Once you have gone through the pre-approval process, we could have pre-approvals generated to match what you want to offer on a property. And we could also have multiple pre-approvals generated for you depending on whether or not, let's say, the property goes into like a bidding situation, and so that you can have a better strategy to get the best possible price for a property that you're looking to buy. The next possible situation, and this is not required of you. If you are a buyer, you don't have to have your own attorney because the lender essentially is going to have an attorney. But as a first-time home buyer, and depending on the type of property that you want to buy, it may be best for you to have an attorney. A lot of times, if you have an attorney help you with the purchase and sales, we may be able to use the same attorney as a lender for the closing, and you may be able to get either the first fee waived, which is to basically overview the purchase and sales transaction, or they may be able to give you a discount on the closing part of the transaction. So typically there are two fees when you're hiring an attorney. One is for them to help you in the front end, and that will be for them to review the purchase and sales agreement, as well as for them to, if you buy in a condominium, for them to review the condominium documents to make sure that the condominium association is financially sound. There is typically a fee for that, depending on how much work is involved, there's typically a fee for that first part. And then there's another part, the part where once you have signed the purchase and sales, you're going to go get financing. That attorney would then move from a buyer's attorney into a settlement agent. And basically the settlement agent would be representing the interests of the financial institution. In this case, if you're getting along with a credit union, it would be the credit union. Because you are buying a property and you're obtaining financing for the lender, typically you as a buyer are on the same side as the lender when it comes to buying a property. So there's not really a conflict of interest in a sense, because basically the lender and you are on the same side. You don't want to have an attorney that is also representing the seller, because that could be a conflict of interest. You want to make sure that it's somebody that's going to look for your best interest throughout the transaction. When you look into hiring attorneys, you want to make sure that it's a real estate attorney. Even if you have a cousin, brother, sister that's an attorney, maybe a criminal law, that might not help you much, because you want to make sure that it's somebody that knows real estate law. When it comes to a real estate transaction, there's a lot of federal laws that must be and guidelines that must be followed. So you want to make sure that it's an attorney that is well versed in real estate. You also want to make sure that it's an attorney that could be accessible to you in case you may have any questions. And you want to also discuss any cost upfront before you even start working with the attorney. Make sure that you have everything clear upfront and in writing.
Thank you, Daisy. I just want to do a quick time check. We have about 15 minutes. As a reminder, folks, we will email the slides and the presentation and Daisy's contact information as well. And we will leave some time for some other questions that are at the end. So I'd say maybe about 10 minutes, Daisy, before we open it up for questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Migdalia. So in Massachusetts, and this could be different for any like other states, but in Massachusetts, when you are buying a property, there's two steps that you must follow typically. One is the offer to purchase, and the second one will be the purchase and sales agreement. At the credit union, we are able to lend in all of New England. So Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine, Connecticut, etc. So all of New England, but depending on the state that you're looking to buy a property, they may have different requirements that need to be followed. Any time that whether you're making an offer or signing the purchase and sales agreement, you want to make sure that you have everything in writing. You want to make sure that you have a clear closing date, a time frame for response when you expect to hear back, and you want to make sure that you have any contingencies that you may want to have listed. Like you may have to, basically contingencies are requirements or desires that you want to have happen. One contingency will be a mortgage contingency, meaning that you want to make sure that if you're not able to get a mortgage, that you can walk out of the transaction and get your deposits back. So basically, any contingency you have listed, and your attorney could help you with that, and your agent as well, will protect your deposit. That's basically your main goal. Obviously, you want, when you make an offer, you do it in good faith, and you want to go and buy the property and so on. But in case anything may happen, you want to make sure that everything that you want to have happen as part of the transaction is clearly outlined in your offer to purchase. You also may want to have an inspection done. As a lender, lenders typically don't require that you have an inspection on the property, but you may want to, just because properties in New England are very old, and you want to make sure that the structure of the property is financially sound. Nothing is as is until you basically close on the transaction and get the keys to the property. So everything up until the purchase and sales, for the most part, is negotiable. Even up until the sale, depending on the circumstance, is negotiable. So I'm going to go over basically the home buying process as well. And let me go back a little bit. So after you make an offer to buy a property, typically you want to state a deadline of if you want to have an inspection done, of when you want to have the inspection done. Typically, the standard time frame is 7 to 10 business days. If anything comes about as a result of the inspection, then you can put that information on the purchase and sales agreement. So the purchase and sales agreement, which is the second step of buying a property in Massachusetts, basically is a contract. So both the offer to purchase and the purchase and sales agreement are contracts. And you want to make sure that everything is in writing, because if it's not in writing, it's not true. So anything you want to have happen as part of a transaction, you want to make sure that you put it in writing, either on the offer to purchase or once you get to the purchase and sales transaction. Typically, you're going to give two deposits that total 5% of the purchase price. First, when you make an offer to purchase, you give it could be anywhere from $500 to $1,000. The next step, once you go into the purchase and sales agreement, you're going to give the remaining 5% minus $1,000. And that money is typically held in escrow. And an escrow account is basically a savings account that basically is held either by the brokerage, the seller's broker, like the firm, or the attorney in the transaction, the seller's attorney. And that money is held in case, let's say, something happens and you're not able to buy the property, they could refund you the money back. Or let's say if you go through with the transaction, everything is great, you get approved for the mortgage, then that will count as your initial deposit. And you basically will have to pay the seller any amount, like your loan plus your down payment minus what you already gave as an earnest deposit, a good faith deposit at the beginning of the transaction. Once you have found a property and you have signed the purchase and sales agreement, or if you have not signed the purchase and sales agreement yet, but you have done the inspection and you're sure that you're not going to change your mind on the property, then the next step will be for you to apply for a mortgage. Applying for the mortgage basically means that you are going to commit basically to buy this property. Once you apply for the mortgage, you're going to obtain a loan estimate based on the information that you have entered for that particular property. So the loan estimate will give you is an estimate, it's not a firm amount, an idea of what you may need to bring to the closing at the end of the transaction. So any fees that are associated, whether it be appraisal fee, attorney fee, insurance, title insurance, etc., will be listed in a loan estimate once you submit a mortgage application. And basically that will give you an idea of what you need to prepare as far as the funds are concerned, what you need to have in your assets account to finalize the mortgage transaction. Once you submit the application for a mortgage, the lender is going to look to receive all of the required documentation, pay stubs, W-2s, bank statements, within, let's say, 5 to 10 days in order to go to the next step. At that time, an appraisal is also going to be ordered. And basically, an appraisal is what gives the lender the value of your property. And the way the appraisal is done is by looking at your property and how your property compares to any property that are similar to your property that have sold recently in the area. And that's how basically they assess a value. If your property is in good conditions, then your appraised value may be higher. Or if your property, let's say vice versa, your property is in not so great condition, you may have to do some home improvements, then all the other properties in the area, then your value may be lower than the other properties' sale prices, and so on. After the appraisal is received, then your file will be submitted to an underwriting team. And basically the underwriter will be the person that confirms all the information, verifies income, confirms that the appraised value is acceptable, that either matches the purchase price or is a little higher, so that they could render a decision on your loan. Once a decision has been rendered on your loan, there may be all the documents that are required of you, whether it be you may need to add more pay stubs or submit more bank statements and so on. After all of the requirements have been met, you're going to get what is called a commitment letter. The commitment letter is the lender's commitment to you that they're going to give you the loan so that you can purchase this property. In the commitment letter, ideally you want to have a commitment letter that is clear of any conditions. There may still be some conditions depending on the timing of the transaction, etc. But once all of the conditions are met, any conditions that are listed on the commitment letter are met, then after that process is completed, then you're going to get what is called a clear to close. And basically that's one of your final goals is to get a clear to close from the lender, so that all you have to wait for is basically the closing date, and then you can start working with the attorney in order to prepare any funds due for closing, and so that you can buy homeowners insurance, etc. And you can start basically making plans to move into your property. Until you complete the mortgage transaction, do not obtain new credit. Please do not buy any furniture, because that could affect whether or not you still qualify for the mortgage. And the reason why I say this is because a couple of days before your scheduled closing date, the lender is going to do what is called, they're going to pull a soft credit inquiry on your credit profile. The credit inquiry is not going to affect your credit rating, but the reason why they're doing that is to determine whether or not you still qualify for the loan as far as the debt to income ratio is concerned. We want to make sure that you don't have any new debt or any higher debt that could affect whether or not you still qualify for the mortgage that you are obtaining from the lender. At the closing, basically, once you get the loan is clear to close, you're going to go to the next step. You are going to receive what is called a closing disclosure. And that typically comes either from the lender or the settlement agent or the closing attorney. And that closing disclosure is going to show you a final accounting of everything that transpired as part of your transaction. What you want to do is compare that closing disclosure document to your initial loan estimate, just to make sure that everything adds up and it matches. If you have any questions, you can ask your closing attorney for any further clarification. The loan estimate that you receive at the beginning of your application is that, an estimate. So it could change as the closing attorney confirms all of the information. They're going to confirm what the actual cost is going to be for lender title insurance. They're going to confirm what your taxes are, how much you have to buy for homeowners insurance, etc. So it is important that you receive an acknowledged receipt of the closing disclosure at least 4 business days before your scheduled closing date. And the reason for that is because you want to make sure that you understand all of the costs associated with your transaction. And if you have any questions, you can ask your attorney to clarify for you or confirm. Approximately 24 to 48 hours before your scheduled closing date, you're going to perform a walkthrough of your property. Basically, you want to review the property and make sure that anything that you stated on your purchase and sales agreement has happened. And you want to make sure the property is still in good condition. For instance, let's say that as part of your purchase and sales agreement, you had a contingency written that they were gonna do some repairs, or as part of it, you said that you wanted to keep the appliances or the chandelier, whatever the case is. At the walkthrough, you want to make sure that whatever you put as a condition of you buying this property on your purchase and sales agreement has happened. If that is not the case, then you don't want to close on the transaction until a resolution has happened between you and the seller. And this is basically a mortgage roadmap. At the beginning, you may want, before you even go to the express pre-approval, you may want to have a consultation with a loan officer or a mortgage loan originator to have what is called a pre-qualification. The pre-qualification will basically be a conversation between you and the loan officer, so you can have a better idea on how to prepare to be ready to buy a property. And basically, at the time of the pre-qualification, you're going to talk about your income, what you have as debt, your finances, and you're going to get a better idea of how much you may qualify for, so that you can be better prepared, whether or not that will be that you need to save more money for down payment, reserves, or you may want to change how much you want to buy a property for, and so on. The first step in the mortgage process.
Hi, Daisy. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to do a quick recap that we are at time, so I don't know if you want to just go through the other slides. And I know some people may need to jump off because I know some folks took their lunch time. So we will email the slides, and anyone that had a question, I will email those to Daisy so that she will get back to you individually.
Okay, yeah, I'm almost done. Just 1 second. So after the pre-approval, you want to have basically make an offer on a property and go to the purchase and sales agreement. After you have secured the property, signed the purchase and sales agreement, or after you've done the inspection, if you're choosing to do that, then you want to submit a loan application and lock your interest rate. Typically at the credit union, the rate is locked once you submit the mortgage application. Your rate is locked automatically based on the product that you've chosen. Again, you're going to get a loan estimate, and then you're going to submit any supporting documentation. The next step will be basically verifying that everything that you stated as part of your application is happening. We're going to confirm to see your pay stubs, W-2s, bank statements, etc. And we're going to check your credit, and it's going to be a hard inquiry in your credit. After that process is completed, you're going to get a mortgage commitment letter. And as I mentioned before, that's basically the lender's commitment that they're going to give you the money so you can buy the property. After the commitment letter, and if there are any remaining conditions have been met, then you're going to get a clear to close. And either the lender or the closing attorney will send you the closing disclosures, which is part of the closing instructions, letting you and the attorney know what you need to have completed before you can close and get the money to buy the property. A few days before the closing, we're going to verify your credit and basically verify that you haven't incurred any new debt, and we're going to verify that you're still employed at your current employer. And that's pretty much it. After that, basically the next step is just waiting for the closing, performing the walkthrough, so that you can go to the next step, which will be to the closing and become a homeowner. Thank you so much, everybody. And again, we're available. If you have any questions, we could set up a time to have a conversation and discuss specifically your situation.
Thank you so much, Daisy, and thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We'll just end it here at this slide. We have a home buying forum that is coming up March 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. We will send you information about it. You can also register at hbcu.org/home-forum, and it'll be a 3-day presentation. First day will be about the real estate market trends. Second day, expert panel discussion with an attorney and a home inspector. And day 3, we'll have a home buying overview presentation. Hope everyone has a wonderful day, and thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Daisy.
Thank you so much, Victalia.